we have no reason to suspect the early church attribution to one Isaiah. And so if he wrote it hundreds of years ago, 700 years before the birth of Christ, and then contained such predictions as King Cyrus, by name, will release the Jews from captivity and allow them to return to their land and rebuild the city. That Cyrus is mentioned 150 years before he's born. Think about that.
Yeah.
And then he does what Isaiah said he would do. So those kinds of things blew me away. How can you deny that? We're not talking about Nostradamus who says Hister and not Hitler. We're talking about errorless predictions.
Yeah. And I think the timeliness of this conversation, we are a very short period of time before Easter Sunday. And when let's take the book of Isaiah, you see these very precise expressions of what Jesus would do for us on the cross.
Yes.
Isaiah 53 obviously is one of the passages that comes to mind. But throughout Isaiah, throughout the book of Psalms, you see time after time where what happened to Jesus through his death was actually documented.
Micah 5:2,
yeah.
Be born in Bethlehem, riding in to Jerusalem on a colt, donkey. You know, those things were predicted. It's pretty phenomenal stuff.
So what, as you began to, or as you studied this, what was the tipping point for you? At what point did, as we might say, the light come on and you said, this is for me. I want to pursue a relationship with Christ?
Well, I don't know that I can attribute it to one lightning bolt moment, but I think the cumulative impact of the various apologetics material I was reading, apologetics had a great impact on me because I had what I at least thought were intellectual doubts. I think now that I've come to study this and lived it, I think these doubts we think are intellectual are really a substitute for some other impediment we have, whether it's pride or dealing with our own sin or whatever it is, and it keeps us from coming to Christ. But I did have some truly, I don't know if you want to call them intellectual obstacles, but one, and it's a common one that so many people have, is it is so basic, it'd almost be embarrassing to articulate, except you'll see people all the time, even people who are atheists today, you get on Twitter arguments with them, which, by the way, is fun. And God is omniscient, God is omnipotent, God is all-loving, omnibenevolent. Why would an omnipotent, all-loving God allow people to suffer? Why would he allow this kind of evil and suffering to occur in the world? And so it's kind of one of those doubts, one of these things that bother people, that they don't even look at the evidence, whether his Christianity is historically true, whether Jesus was born, whether there is historical evidence that he lived and then died and was buried, and then his grave was empty, his tomb was empty, or whether he was resurrected, is overwhelming evidence. If you watch Lee Strobel's movie, The Case for Christ, which is coming out soon, and it's being premiered here. Overwhelming evidence, more for the New Testament than any other book of ancient literature. We're talking about the literary reliability of the ancient text. You got more evidence of that than any other ancient text, and you've got all kinds of evidence that supports the notion that Christ was a historical figure who actually did die and was resurrected. So even if you have all these doubts, like why would an all-loving God allow people to suffer? Why would there be this kind of sin, pervasive sin in the world, if you had a God that could prevent it? Then you're not even allowing yourself to look at the evidence. So let's say, so I finally got to the point where I didn't resolve all doubts about everything I had, but I knew that the evidence for Christianity's truth claims was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And to the extent that I still had some doubts, I realized that those were the things that I had to work on. Not that I'd closed my mind. I had opened it to the truth. And the truth is that Jesus lives, and he died for our sins so that we could live.